me, I'm in hungry like a wolf. Black chain banging against my chest like whoa. $1 million mind from the west side, yo. The full moon, yeah, we gon' get wild, yo. Stressed out, you don't want to get too close. Stand down before we put you and all of your men down. Fire squad camo, kicking through the door. Keep firing till the clip is on the floor. Reload.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, hello around the world. My name is Pokemon Panda, and welcome to Broadcast.gg's coverage of Open Division Season 3 in the EU region. I will be your host for today's match. Alongside on this beautiful digital desk, I have Ryan Central and Labasco. Open Division hasn't been around for quite some time, so allow me to give you a quick refresher of how we're going to be doing things. Open Division is played in a Swiss system. What that means specifically is because we had so many entrants come into this tournament, it's going to be competitors will be playing a set number of games a week across 5 weeks, facing a team with similar running score. Without facing the same competitor more than once, the team with the highest match win-loss record will meet each other in a last weekend playoff to enable a Sweet 16 last week tournament. Tiebreakers will be played out, and the Sweet 16 will be finalized prior to that. Now, our map rotation, I'm sure most of you know and love today. It's going to be Control, Escort, Assault, then Hybrid, with Control being the 5th map. Whichever Control won't be played on the first one, and the first map we know will be a choice of Nepal or Lijiang. So Ryan, Labasco, how we doing today, guys?
Too bad at all, not too bad. I think both waiting for each other to answer, really.
Yeah.
Open Division's great. I think this is where you find the new talent coming through. It works in a similar vein to the bottom 4 in contenders that don't make playoffs, get brought down or relegated to contenders trials. Then they face off against the top 4 teams coming out of this. So we will find new talent for the EU region. There will be sort of players and teams that will make their way up there. These guys will be playing against British Hurricane in the contenders trials, would you believe it? So maybe not these 2 teams necessarily. I think we start off with sort of like middle of the pack, sort of 2 teams. First Open Division, around a 4K SR average. But that's just part of the story with some of these teams, right, Labusco?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's, a lot of these teams are players at that higher level, that GM level, trying to find something that works together. And, Open Division, we've had a little bit of time here between this one and the last one. So these 2 teams in particular haven't had a whole lot of time, but this is where you sort of test what you've been able to do in the coming weeks up until now and seeing if what you're putting to paper is really going to work. And, we just had this big meta shift as well, too, that's coming into Open Division as well, since obviously we're on live patch. So I think that's something that's going to be fun to see as well, as what are some of these, tier 3 teams deciding on what they want to do as far as their compositions that they're going to run.
Absolutely, and we get to finally see some of these different changes in this live patch be played out through and through. Us with covering contenders, so on and so forth, got a little taste of it, but now we get to fully dive on into it. So, Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about Team ONYX? Who might we be seeing on the screen today?
I mean, other than Pokemon names, that's really all it's going to come down to. In terms of sort of lineup, I think it's going to be fairly generic. Like, the composition that really springs to mind is, of course, known as Goats, triple support, triple tank, Brigitte in amongst, like, Moira and Lucia, sometimes Ana. So whilst these players do have preferred picks, such as Pastor Knight wants to play Widowmaker, Serif wants to play Tracer, you'll more often than not find them playing stuff like Zarya, maybe Roadhog if they want to run quad tank, especially with it being two teams that don't really know, have never played against each other, don't really know what to go with this meta. It would surprise me if we just saw that composition used from both teams throughout all of the different maps.
Yeah, and it's EU region as well, so I know that quad tank is Bay in this region as well. I do love watching it as much as everybody does harp on it. It is really fun to watch just who comes up on the proverbial slapfest. But their adversaries today, Labasco, is straight out of comp. I like that name. Why don't you tell us who we're going to be seeing from them?
Yeah, it's a really good name, that's for sure. Anybody who's a fan of Straight Outta Compton, the movie, I think is going to like that name, or just a fan of just the what Straight Outta Compton's about, right? But as far as what they're going to run as a team, it looks like it's going to be a pretty interesting. The Shimada brothers as their DPS duo, so Genji, Hanzo, and then Reinhardt and Zarya are what are shown as their favorite for the tanks, and then Mercy Zen, which is something that we're very, very used to seeing here. The other things, though, is that they have a lot of other heroes that are listed as well for these players to play. Farah and Tracer are the other two for their DPS duo that they have. So they have sort of specific roles, and Ren is also listed as somebody who can play Genji. So they can throw their their hit scan DPS onto the projectile, and then they do have Winston Diva as that secondary set of tanks that they like to play as well. And it looks like they've pretty much got the gambit for supports taken care of as well. Both players have Moira listed as their second for Zeke and Kiwi. So there's a lot of range for them, it seems like, here. But with the way that the meta is right now, the main comp that they showed there with Genji and Hanzo is definitely something that we could more than likely see here, depending on the map.
As our first map here has been set, we are hopping in here to Lijiang Tower. It's going to be a banger of a match as we get to see these two teams slap each other across the field. Now, Ryan Central, Labasco, you guys go ahead and take it away. Have a good cast.
Thank you very much, Panda. And Ryan, the first map, of course, we're going to Lijiang Tower, and it looks like it's City Center as well here. So definitely a interesting map that we get to see first.
Exactly, and you could already sort of see team on the right is already locking in that sort of composition. No doubt we're going to see a lot of, not only because it's very meta, it's a very, if you're not quite sure what to run, this is a good thing to fall back on, but more so, it's really good on Control Center, right? It's so closed in, it's all about protecting that point. When things open up to Gardens or Night Market, depending on which ones we get to see yet, it might change up, you might see more Farah, for example, but this right now, I think is going to be the composition that they run. Robin Norge, though, Junkrat is a pretty good pick here and is good against fighting all of these big tanky comps.
It's definitely going to be some really quick ultimates that get built up for Junkrat if that's what Robin decides to do. We get a quick pause here before we start to get into things. I think maybe one of the players, looks like J-Dog on Straight Outta Comp, has a little bit of trouble loading in. But like you were saying, ONYX, we were talking 3-3 prior to this, Ryan, and I mean, this is one of the ideal maps in order to run this.
True. It's hard to say when you're looking at teams when they're coming in. Already ONYX locked in at lineup, right? So you know that they're not going to change up anything. There's no real reason or rhyme to it. The interesting thing I'm seeing out of Straight Outta Comp, though, is that Hammond pick. It's not the worst pick in the world here. It might just be, they're going to change last second. They want to give us something to talk about. But to be honest, Hammond against this lineup isn't all that bad, especially if you're not trying to play a lineup that's similar. Maybe you want to try and run some form of dive comp, I suppose. And because of that, Hammond's really good because Winston can get just torn apart. He doesn't really have the movement. Sure, he has his leap, but as soon as he jumps in, the enemy team spot that, they'll just run over him. Hammond, Wrecking Ball, does have the element of being able to be in and out of fights fairly easily, which makes him a perfect hero to run into these comps, to go in, cause disrupt, and then immediately get out and not get caught out because of it.
It's interesting, too, because when you look at the supports that they're showing us right now, Zeke's on the Lucio, Kiwi's on the Zenyatta. So you've got those two supports that are sort of more dive supports, or at least traditionally, that's what they've always been. Zenyatta's sort of been an all-purpose support hero. But, I mean, we don't know what we're getting from J-Dog yet as well. But just from what we're seeing here so far, this is definitely something that's unique as far as a comp, if that's what they decide to do.
Right, and it would be more interested to see the Guardian stage. It would be interested to see different maps being played out This one first, I think, is just going to be indicative of who runs these tanky compositions. But if we started on Night Market or Gardens or even other areas of the sort of maps that we could see in the controlled region, granted, there's only 2. It's not as if you're going to see the likes of Ilios where Widowmaker would come out. It's Nepal and Lijiang, which are quite good controlled maps for being in the middle of the pack, I'd say, that you can run a lot of different strategies. Oasis, for example, as a control map, isn't very tank favored. But now we're going to be getting back into the game. Teams are still preparing, but this ladder from ONYX pretty much looks set in motion.
Yeah, and it looks like J-Dog is going to go over to the Hanzo, so we will still have the Zen and the Lucio, but it will be Ryan Zari instead. So the Hammond, the Wrecking Ball pick there, just playing with us a little bit, it looks like, Ryan.
A little bit, yeah. Maybe we'll see it come out as it goes on. Whoever can really get a grasp on different metas that could counter like this 3-3 comp is going to be strong. ONYX already taking care of this point. It's going to be easy for them to hold it. That's a tanky composition. Both teams running fairly similar lineups with a few different changes.
Need to get that Junkrat spam out and get that shield down. Sparrow does get it. He has the Discord Orb on him as well. As you see now, Phil starting to get a little bit more aggressive here on the Reinhardt. Gets pooped back away, though. So it looks like that first take will go to ONYX here at the very start. But there's still some opportunities here. Finally, though, everything's starting to go the way of that 3-3 for the side of ONYX as they get control. And now they quickly push up to the doors here and force them back to spawn.
The longer that these fights go on for ONYX with this 3-3 goats comp, the more it favors them, simply because straight out of comp need to rely on the ultimates that they get. And you can see that Robin Nosh on the Junkrat is very close to having that Riptide, which is amazing against this kind of composition that ONYX are running, but you need to get it quickly. J-Dog will have his Hanzo ult too, so it does mean that they do have options for this fight to be aggressive. ONYX do have a couple of options themselves though.
First going out with the Dragon Strike here. Use the Graviton Surge as the counter, though. Kiwi does manage to get Sparrow down. Transcendence here a little bit late, but it keeps everybody up. They didn't really lose anybody. Oh, they're using pretty much all their ultimates. Use the Tire, use the Earth Shatter. All that's left on the point right now is the Lucio and the Moira.
That bomb is huge, considering that straight out of comp use so many different ultimates. It does look like they're going to still be able to get the point, but they did use Transcendence. They used Earth Shatter. He even got shot himself by Sparrow, who seemed to waste it. Was taken out by a Sonar Arrow of all things, but straight out comp used 4 ultimates there. ONYX just need to sit a bit more comfortably, but they did use Grav. That's a big ult to waste when you're running this kind of composition.
It's also a big loss, too, of Sparrow using that Earth Shatter as well. I mean, that's something they could have maybe used to retake this fight. You do still have the Valkyrie up, though, on the other side for straight out of comp. So they do have a defensive ult still in the back pocket here as this fight starts. As charging in is Sparrow, getting a lot of charge for his Zarya at the very least. The Valkyrie is used here, but it's used maybe a little bit too late. Graviton Surge, though, in response, but it's not going to matter as the Dragon Strike is late, and they had the Sound Barrier up as well. Do get the res in, but the flip does come in for ONYX.
One really interesting thing to highlight there is we did see Graviton use that straight out of comp. Cut the majority of the team. This is played on live patch, so the support changes to Lucio, to Ana with the Nano Boost healing are all in this, and that was saved there from Sungam's Sound Barrier. Of course, Sound Barrier now gives you 250 extra shield when using that ultimate, so help them survive there. They're using Rally here at ONYX to hold off this door, try and make sure that they can stall that point. Graviton is used again, straight out comp are in trouble.
They do get the Transcendence out, so they're at least able to keep most of their team alive. J-Dog, too, was able to get the Zarya out of the fight here at the start, so there is a chance here. The Dragon Strike's going to get one. They're going to get that, and then they have the Riptire leading in as well, so being forced back now, but they're at 93% is ONYX, so it looks like the take will be coming back here. They're just as the Brigitte, who's quickly retreating away, but straight out of comp is at least going to be able to get this flip, but they're in a tough spot.
Again, they use so many ultimates. They use the Transcendence to keep themselves alive in the Grav, and then use both their offensive ultimates to clear stuff out. ONYX only need to win one more fight, and they have ultimates. They're going to throw in a Diva Bomb. Actually does get the Zen. That could be it straight away.
Oh, but the Earth Shatter there manages to catch 2, doesn't get Sparrow's able to use his charge to block with a Graviton Surge here. This might be able to keep them with this point going, but they're going to commit Coalescence here, though, is ONYX. They're not done. They want to win this fight. They only have Phil left along with Ozzy as well as Zeke. If they can push them off, they can get this take back. The overtime meter starting now as they're able to take that high charge Zarya out. Meter does get there. The Zen can't get there in time in Kiwi, so it will be ONYX up 1-0 here. And Ryan, like you said, they committed so many ults to win fights there on that first map.
It just looked like a lack of discipline maybe out straight outcome for both sides, to be honest. Both of them using ultimates in situations where you should just either save them or make sure that you're not using your Riptire and Hanzo Dragon Strike at the same time. It's one of those things where that communication is going to be important. You don't want to be in a situation where, sure, straight out comp would take the point, but they used 4 ultimates and ONYX only used, say, 1 to try and keep alive and stall out the point. So now this opens up a little bit more. I'll be interested to see if ONYX still runs this composition. They've locked it in straight away, so it does look likely. So this is asking a lot of straight out of comp who aren't running like this GOAT's free composition at all. They're running more of a dive comp with a Tracer and a Pharah.
Very common comp that we see here too, Ryan, on this one. The Pharah, if you can get that damage out. Going weight room here, though, is what the side of ONYX is going to do. So they're going to be able to avoid some of that Pharah damage, and they're going to be able to get onto the point and have that early control here. So now the dive has to decide how they want to attack this, as this team has a pretty good defensive spot set up on the point. They are dealing some damage out here, trying to get that shield down, and J-Dog's able to find the Moira at the start. Does get taken out, though, by the Brigitte. So even here, 5v5 at the start of this fight. Still neither team having control of the point yet, but getting close is ONYX here. Zeke's able to get J-Dog back res, but they give it up the point to ONYX at the start here, but it's still a winnable fight, but they lose Kiwi, and Sarah gets J-Dog again. So it looks like ONYX here. There is the barrage out, though, from Robin to get Sparrow down, so this might be the retake here for the side of straight out comp, but it's still super even on either side. They just have to try and finish this off, and the sound barrier, these ults have been getting built up so fast.
This is why this competition is so good. The amount of time that ONYX has stayed on the point, even as like a 5, one of their players being down, they're still managing to stall out fights, and straight out of comp don't really have an answer for this. They got a barrage very quickly. They're almost on the way of having another themselves with Robin, but they're not getting these kills quick enough. It's so difficult to dive ONYX here.
Is it just a lack of coordination for them? Because this is, I mean, this is not a bad comp for the map they're on, and it can deal a lot of damage to these tanks.
It's the principle of dive, right? Because the idea is that you dive a target and mow them down very quickly. The issue is, who do you dive as ONYX? Robin Noj actually just get a pick onto Baby Diva, so that is an opportunity. But again, does it take him a while to kill him?
Does give him an opportunity to use his barrage, manages to get one. Oh, and the Sonic Arrow getting another here. So this is going to be finally the retake. They were able to talk that through, and they were able to flip it, but 62%, that's a lot of percentage build and a lot of elements that ONYX have here for the next fight.
So it's kind of like straight out of comparator rock in a hard place. They either dedicate too many ultimates to take a fight early, or they do what they did just then. They used only a couple of ultimates, but it took them so long to actually get that point. And ONYX have a lot in their bank to use. The Graviton is a big one, but other than that, they still have Coalescence, they have the Earth Shatter, a lot of ultimates that can win this, and they're again going to be really aggressive here.
The one thing that they do have going for straight out of comp is they have a decent amount of alts as well. They use that Dragon Strike to zone, now throw in the self-destruct, and not able to get away his son, so that's one already down here. J-Dog able to find another, but they do manage to get Robin out of the air, use the Earth Shatter here to knock down the tanks. They manage to get 1-2 with the charge by Sparrow, so this is their chance here. Transcendence, though, to try and keep this going for straight out of comp. They're starting to commit these ultimates here, and it looks like it's going for a losing effort. They don't have much left here, and you have the rally out as well. So the Mercy trying to just heal as much as possible in Zeke, but they're being forced off of this point. They're just stalling out for as long as they possibly can as the respawns start to come in. Robin, nothing with that, though, as now they come back with the Dragon Strike. So this might be their opportunity, but they have the sound barrier committed and the Moira ult as well. So this one, they have the chance to still keep it, but they're even as far as percentage points.
One of the interesting things with this fight is that Dark Dagger didn't use that Graviton at all. ONYX used everything else that they had, including ultimates that they built up in that fight. It's still ongoing. So straight out of comp is still in pole position to keep this point. It does look like it's going to take over. But the thing is that ONYX still have that Graviton. They haven't used it. It was obviously an active choice for Dark Dagger to keep it, not use it in that fight. He wants to save it and wants to clear out this fight now.
These are some odd fights too, Ryan. I mean, they're lasting so long for both of these teams. They're having problems just cleaning this point up as the next team fight is about to start, but prime position still for ONYX. Both teams wasted so many ults just to win that one fight, and Graviton Surge being up with no defensive ults to take care of it could be the big difference here to determine the win for this first map for ONYX. But going to start off, they're going to lose their Moira at the beginning, but they will trade it for a mech. Robin, though, able to get Sarah, so it looks like straight out of comps doing what they need to get this point back in their favor. It's going to build up to 99% before they can get the retake, though. Robin able to get one, now two. Self-destruct in response, not going to work. Now they just got to get the Zarya here. They do use the Graviton Surge, though, as they're going to lose this fight regardless, though. That's a big ultimate loss.
After holding that ultimate for so long, still dies when using it and only gets one pick. Like, that's so unfortunate for ONYX. I think that Dagger could have built up another Graviton by the point that he had it to now if he had used it fairly early on. Barrage is going to be a big ultimate for straight out of comp here. They do have Transcendence too, just in case there's an aggressive sort of holdout here. But ONYX need to actually rush onto the point. They are quite quick, but I don't think they're going to be able to touch.
They do just manage to get the touch there as they push their way on. They use that Earth Shatter. I don't know if it got anyone, but now they come in with Transcendence here. Robin built up the barrage as they now throw the Dragon Strike in here as well. Just being moved around right now is ONYX, as they have to be careful not to go off of this point. They're so close to just giving it up there. They come back on, though, with the rest of their team, but Robin still really being uncontested up in the air here inside. Now finally starting to get focused down. So ONYX, it looks like this might finally be their chances. They're finally clearing it off. Just have to take care of the couple of respawns coming back in. And now it's swinging back into the favor of the respawns that just came back in. Primal Rage pushes them off. We're going to map 3. Straight out of comp gets that one.
That's not easy to do what Straight Outta Comp just did. The fact that they managed to stall that fight for so long to maintain a point, even when ONYX were being aggressive with this composition, isn't easy on a point like Gardens, where you can just sort of maneuver around, make sure that you're not out in the open, so a Pharah can't just throw rockets at you from a distance. They kept themselves in enclosed spaces, they made their way around. But Straight Outcome still did really well to stall out the point, keep themselves alive, and even get picks. It took a while to get going, but now we have a real game on our hands here on Lijiang Tower. It's going to be interesting to see if ONYX actually do change up their lineup at all.
And it seemed like that Earth Shatter too. I think maybe it had gotten blocked, so I don't think it ended up being.
It was by the Winston shield, so it was it was a bit of a mistake from Sparrow. He had to charge onto the point to make sure that it went into overtime, but then immediately Earth Shattered as like a panicle almost. So may have wanted to hold on for it for a split second, but really good play from Phil Rowe to put the shield down as a Winston to completely block it, but it didn't amount to much at all.
Well, they now have a little bit of a change here for ONYX. They're going to have Pasta Knight right now on the Widowmaker, quickly dealing these shots out. They haven't really gotten too many picks. They're starting to get them now. Seraph is starting to take control of the skies here, so they've sort of switched on who has the Pharah. And it looks like you might need to end up having the reset come here for the side of Straight Outta Comp. They are losing this fight pretty handily, as it looks like ONYX will again be the first team to take. They just got to get this Diva off.
And they're running a very different lineup to what they've run previously. They have the Mercy, they have the Lucio to speed boost people in. Does look like ONYX are going to be able to take the point, but Straight Outta Comp and making sure that it doesn't go down without a fight. The issue with that, though, is it's feeding a lot of ult charge to ONYX. Sarif is very close to having a barrage coming back from spawn, putting in a chunk of damage to where Straight Outta Comp is going to be coming from.
Not only that, Ryan, they've really just staggered themselves pretty hard. Everybody's having to wait at spawn for those last couple respawns to come in. So you just give that maybe, 5 to 10 extra percentage points to the side of ONYX. So they're sitting in a pretty prime spot, but they were sitting in a prime spot on Gardens as well. So you still have life on the side of Straight Outta Comp, as Robin, though, able to get Pasta Knight to start. So you have the pressure from the Widow gone, and then the one block, but the other one by Phil not blocked. Barrage in the air by Seraph, able to get 2. So it looks like another fight is going to be won here by ONYX. If they could just clean up these tanks, this is where they're having the most trouble, but all of this high charge Zarya is able to get 1.
Ozzy is absolutely popping off. He's just got to survive against the Widowmaker and the Lucio. Trying to boop him out into a position. Does get the kill, but they trade. It's now Kiwi on the Zenyatta versus Widowmaker Pasta Knight, but it's briefly interrupted by Sparrow on the Reinhardt, who had another Earth Shatter blocked, this time by Ozzy's projected barrier on herself as the Zarya. So he's having a real unfortunate time trying to make use out of these ultimates.
They do have the ultimate for their Mercy coming up here in this fight for ONYX as well. Seraph able to get 1, so now you have a Pharah on both sides. By the way, Robin is on that as well, is now the quick Graviton Surge quickly cleans things up, as Seraph is like, okay, that's a shooting gallery, I'll take that.
Sarif is just enjoying being in the air. There's not much to contest. That's why J-Dog has switched over to the McCree. Other tactics aren't working. The clock is ticking up fairly comprehensively for ONYX. They're around sort of 80%. It's going to be like 99 by the time that Straight Outta Comp will be able to touch this objective. Sarif is doing a really good job on the fire, just zoning out the rest of Straight Outta Comp. They've got to make sure they touch the point, but also make sure that they don't have people die whilst he's doing it.
Preemptive Valkyrie too here into the start of this fight, in the Great Booth gets one off by Sarith. Now the Transcendence coming out here, I think it might have been just in desperation by Kiwi. Team uses the Graviton Surge, manages to catch 2 here. Kiwi will eliminate both of them after coming out of the trance. They do manage to get the res. They'll get this Zarya back into this fight. Both Zaryas come back up by the Mercies. Overtime started here. ONYX just trying to clear off the rest of Straight Outta Comp, and they'll get map number 1 win. But the Shatter gets 1. Sarith, though, still trying to be the hero for his team, ends up having the Discord Orb on him, flying up into the air here. His team still managed to hold on here. They're up 99-0. They're just stalling out, and they're not being taken out yet.
Sarif is doing an amazing job of just staying in the sky, trying to keep alive. Actually took out Pharmacy on his own. Is eventually broken down by Aussie and the rest of Straight Outta Comp, but not a moment too soon. Barrage is ready on their side too, so they do have ultimates to protect themselves. Unlike ONYX that don't really have much, might be a good opportunity to switch up their composition. They have an Earth Shot, but Sparrow has really struggled to get some use with them. Now might be the time though.
The only bad part is the start of this fight. Kiwi got picked off by Pasta, so now it's a very, very tough start here. It's already 6v5, and then there's another Shatter block from Phil, but now the Barrage coming out here quickly, taken out with Robin. Still a chance here for ONYX to maybe retake this. They still have Sarith, who has a Barrage of his own, and Sarith will clear the point off, and they should get this Kiwi coming back in here after getting picked off. They get the res onto Sparrow too. This should be enough to finally get the win here. Is that overtime meter? I don't know. They have a Tracer and J-Dog. At the very least, will be able to touch here and stall out as long as possible to let these staggers come back in.
Valkyrie does get used by ONYX though to make sure that they maintain the fight. Actually, we do see Mazessa fighting against the Tracer to keep themselves alive. She's done a really good job of trying to get Robin actually taken out of the fight. Broken down completely, and it does look like ONYX are going to be taking the first map on Lijiang. It did look a bit more comprehensive than you may have thought, but Straight Outta Comp, trying not to play the competition that we've known, the 3-3. ONYX look very good when it comes to versatility.
Their versatility definitely seemed like one of the difference, and we got to see some really good Pharah play from the side of ONYX. Straight Outta Comp had some good Pharah play too. Are you surprised that on Night Market they didn't start with that for Straight Outta Comp? Because, I mean, it went so well with them on the previous map.
Right, and I always thought that this 3-3 composition that you're seeing a lot of teams running is more of a case of if you're not really sure what you want to be playing, you play that. Whilst you're still trying to work out what the enemy team wants to run and what they want to do, then that is a really good composition to sort of start up and run if you're unsure of what you're going into. So the fact that ONYX started off with that, they lost on Gardens against the Pharah, then brought out the composition that was fairly similar themselves and did so well with it, shows to me that they have the edge because they know the meta, they know what compositions are really good, but they can switch to other stuff if it ain't working.
Yeah, and from the other side for Straight Outta Comp, I mean, it seems like they have some flexibility, but it seems like they're a little bit late to pull the trigger on some of their decisions. I mean, we saw the Pharah come out eventually and on the final map in Night Market, and it seemed to have some success. But waiting so long to do it might have been what cost them that map, and they got staggered out so much at times too. I think that was one thing that I noticed was really seemed like it was something that was difficult for them to do, is just kind of stay together as a 6 and not get picked off at the start of a fight.
Exactly, and their use of ultimates from both sides hasn't been stellar. There's been some really good plays with them, but certainly from like Straight Outta Comp, there's been a lot of opportunities where Robin and G-Dog have both ulted together at the same time, where they want to sort of spread it out, make sure that they have a nice rotation throughout their ultimates. It will be good to Rialto next as an escort map. I think it's loser decides. So Straight Outta Comp want to sort of pick up this lineup. It does look like they're going to be locking in some heroes that look similar to the meta that we all know and love at this point. ONYX, who knows really what they can run? Rialto is still a fairly early map and a fairly new map. It'll be interesting to see what kind of meta and compositions comes out here.
Especially with all of the balconies and things that Rialto has, you really have a chance to have some heroes up there. Like maybe you have a Widowmaker who's on one of the balconies peering around and being able to pick people off. There's just so many different options. We see Broadhog a lot at the beginning just because of his ability to hook people into the river, because nobody can swim in the Overwatch world, we found out. So there's a lot of different things, but what it looks like we're going to get here, at least at the start, for the side of the attacking team, is maybe a bit of a dive composition here with a Genji and with the Pharah. And this is also something we see a lot, especially on first point.
Exactly. Instant Camo was actually subbed into this team on ONYX, so they maybe want to run the Diva in a more traditional way. Does look like that's what Instant Camo wants to do. Favorite hero is Zarya, so can play different compositions, but Straight Outta Comp, Are going to be playing very much what we've seen before. Interested to see it on the defense. It does look like we're going to see it in a very aggressive fashion, like we did see it with Finland against South Korea. Definitely a game to check out if you haven't already. It's not quite the same. There's no Brigitte. Instead, you have the Roadhog. Being able to pull people into this water might be a reason, but it's more, look how aggressive this hold is going to be. ONYX need to be aware of this.
And they are getting very aggressive too. They are right outside the spawn doors. They're going to take this fight right at the spawn doors as well. And it's not going in their favor here at the start. Sereth getting one. J-Dog does manage to get the Zenyatta at least at the very start. But they are losing this fight. It's just a matter of time before these couple of tanks that are left are going to be taken out. They do manage to get another one. So J-Dog doing a little bit of work on that Roadhog, but he's the only one who's been able to get any picks with that hook. And now Instant Karma sort of cleaning up here. So they're going to have a very quick push here. They're going to be able to push at least past the halfway point towards this first point.
You don't want to run a composition like that into a Farah, that's for sure, especially one like Sereth that is performing so well so far. Is one of the leading examples for ONYX right now. Being able to get a really quick pick onto Zeke, I think that was on the Moira before. No, it was Kiwi, sorry. Is now having to fight the FAMC in the air. They want to push this as quickly as possible before Straight Out can get back.
Pasta Knight coming in on the dive, quickly takes out J-Dog, so that'll leave a little bit of breathing room too for Sereth as well. Self-destruct comes in, but quickly is handled, so Instant Karma doesn't get a whole lot for it, but he's able to get to Kiwi anyways, so his team doing exactly what they need to with this dive, finding the targets that they want to take out. Primal Rage here, just trying to hit players out, and now just maybe going back to the cart to stay alive is Sparrow, but they're going to get a very quick take here after they take out just the baby diva there, and they already have 5 minutes on the clock. I've never seen that time on Rialto.
It was just consistent from ONYX, the ability to take down this very aggressive composition. A Straight Out comp ran to begin with. Now they're getting completely stalled out. The divers coming in, shutting down J-Dog and then Kiwi. Again, the aggressive nature of ONYX showing and the versatility to run a completely different composition to what they started on really does show how good this team can be. Straight Out comp need to find an answer to this.
Self-destruct coming over the top. Ozzy able to get a really good start, though, at least into this next team fight, and J-Dog getting the pick onto the Mercy, so no res coming, and then finds Sereth as well. J-Dog finally getting something for his team going here. They're going to be able to get a good start to their defense, not even around that first corner, which generally gets there as J-Dog finds another.
He's just actually finding the shots. He's trying to look for the Mercy on the side of Straight Out of comp to try and sort of set them back, but now he's just pushing this as much as possible. Saying that, Kiwi does get taken out the fight with Transcendence, so the Dragon Blade is going to come in.
Yes, Pasta Knight looking for somebody, but he gets taken out, but it allows for the barrage to come in afterwards. All the focus had everyone turned around, and Sereth just able to free fire with it. And now there's just the pharmacy comp here, so the cart will start again.
J-Dog is just trying to manage to get a pick. He's just looking for an opportunity for his team. Actually does get Sungam from an amazing angle that seemed impossible. So now he's got to go on the aggressive. He's trying to find targets. Is one of the answers that Straight Out of comp needed. And now ONYX just need to make sure that they can maintain and control that. And that's difficult when you're running Pharmacy. It's an open season there.
And there's still that cart moving for the side of ONYX, as well as Pasta Knight on the dive, able to get 3 in a row. So even though J-Dog was doing a good job of contesting, the dive coming in works to perfection.
He got the Farah in the middle of the air. Robin Norsh is taken down at 4 minutes and 39 seconds on this checkpoint. ONYX are absolutely breezing through Rialto, but this is a very difficult point to actually get all the way. So it wouldn't be a surprise for Straight Out of comp to completely hold this area, but ONYX have the momentum in their sails.
It's a little bit of a harder place to have the fair as well, because you do have the skybox limited a little bit more than the rest of the map, but it's still something that you can do here. You still see both teams using the pharmacy as they come around this corner, approaching that final corner towards the straightaway, and J-Dog was in front of his shield and gets taken out, and Ozzy with the self-destruct gets the Mercy. That both supports are already down here, so it's a good start for the defense here as they were able to at least stabilize after J-Dog got caught out.
They did use a big ultimate though. They did use Transcendence, and ONYX just got that Dragon Blade for Pasta Knight in that fight, so it can be fairly straightforward for Pasta Knight to go in there and completely clean up with Straight Out of comp and prepared for it. J-Dog needs to spot it coming. Does get a pick on the Sungam, which does force the resurrection. ONYX, I think, needs to be better. They're just running straight through them. Dragon Blade is going to come through.
self-destruct as well, and they've combined for 3 already. Pasta Knight still looking for another one, but a good pin there is able to take Pasta Knight out, but his team is falling though behind him. It might not matter. Robin trying to get something. He does get full supports with the barrage, but the card still continues to move here, so Robin just needs to stay alive, but is not able to here. The respawns will come in and should at least force back the side of ONYX, but they're still playing on the cart.
The Valkyrie is almost ready for Zeke and the rest of Straight Outta Company. It does look like they're going to be able to hold here. Was a bit of a patchy fight almost. Phil Rose pin onto a Pasta Knight whilst he was ulting was great. But it's those open opportunities that ONYX are continuously making for themselves. J-Dog is being amazing here on this Widowmaker. Really does quell fights before they've even began. And does give Straight Outta Company a bit more of a window of opportunity to manage to shed 2 minutes on the clock on this checkpoint. Can they do it for another 2.5 minutes?
That's going to be the big question here. If they lose this fight, that could probably almost do it if they lose it pretty handily. Looking at it on both sides, you have both defensive ults, at least on the other side. Transcendence forced out here early. Not really much to force it out either, so they use that at the start, maybe trying to use it offensively, but it ends up not working out too well. They're not able to get any picks, so still 6v6, as now the Earth Shatter is able to get 4, it looked like, as they do manage to take out the Moira. Self-destruct now onto the card will force the players back for the defense, but they're able to still continue to get picks. Pasta Knight finally got one with the mech, but the rest of his team fell beforehand, so now they'll have to go back to the drawing board here, and they're under 2 minutes.
Pasta Knight has almost got a Graviton, and as you saw, Kiwi used to Transcendence fairly aggressively. Must have spotted that Pasta Knight was no longer going to be on that Genji. Around that time, the Zarya was on 22%, so obviously thought, hey, I'm not going to worry too much, but the fact that Pasta Knight managed to get so much ult charge on the Zarya means that Graviton is going to be early fairly soon. Transcendence isn't going to be ready on the side of Straight Outta Comp. This could be an opening for ONYX right now.
Going swinging in here at the start is Sparrow. Graviton Surge is going to be used. Self-destruct thrown on the other side, and it gets 2 because the shield wasn't able to block all of the teammates here. So this looks like it's going to be a winning fight for the defense again.
And they've managed to shave so much time. ONYX are really struggling to break through this point. Kiwi now has Transcendence. That ultimate was great, the combination between the Graviton from Robin Noj and also Aussie, because we did see Sparrow having to turn his shield to protect from the Diva Bomb. It just allowed Kiwi's the Zen to completely put shots into his back as a discarded target. Went down so easily, the rest of the team went down too. Straight Outta Comp have a lot of answers. They have both their support ultimates, ONYX have their Graviton, but they have held on to that already in some of the fights we've seen from them so far.
Instant Karma got massively staggered too, Ryan, so they took off maybe another 10 seconds because of that great stagger. So now they finally get to the cart here with 30 seconds left, use their Graviton Surge and their Earth Shatter at the same time, and then the counter Earth Shatter allows for J-Dog to get Seraph. Phil's getting another one as well, as Phil's going in, finds another as the defense cleaning up once again.
This has been great from Straight Outta Comp. They look like they're going to be able to full hold here, as ONYX have continuously been stalled out. ONYX have no ultimates ready for this next fight other than Valkyrie. They might use that to try and touch the point, but Misesa has just got out, so looks like this payload isn't going any sooner. It's like I said, it's not uncommon to get stuck here, but Straight Outta Comp have set themselves a nice sort of ribbon to try and cross on Rialto, but it's not that straightforward.
It's definitely difficult to get to the point that they were at, but with the time bank that you had as ONYX, it definitely has to be deflating to know that you only got 2 points, and you didn't even get the biggest of pushes as well on the 3rd point. So there is definitely a window if the confidence is there for Straight Outta Comp to do this. What did you like from them the most? Because it was a big turnaround on that 3rd point for them.
J-Dog and the Widowmaker showed inklings of how good it could be on the 2nd point for sure, but the amount of space that ONYX had open to use a dive comp and be able to take the little bit purchase of high ground, the open space of a Pharah, it was just unfortunate for Straight Outta Comp to try and run a composition in that area. But once you got past the 2nd checkpoint into this final stage of Rialto, it becomes much more enclosed. As you mentioned, Pharah has very little use that she can get out of there because it's so easy to spot. So it just sort of fell into Straight Outta Comp's lap. It's Rialto. It's a map that has like a 44% win rate on attack. So it is going to get changes in the future. That might be a good reason, but it fell nicely into what Straight Outta Comp wanted to run. J-Dog absolutely popped off on the Widowmaker. It was great to see. But then they were able to use their ultimates in a way that made sure that they always had a backup option in case ONYX used an aggressive ultimate, like a Graviton.
And it seemed like ONYX was kind of just disjointed there a little bit too, Ryan. I mean, you had the Earth Shatter and the Graviton Surge used at the same time. I mean, sometimes you see those alts comboed, but generally not really, especially in that sort of a situation. I thought that was a little bit of a surprise coming out from them.
Exactly, and it's one of those areas where you kind of expected a little bit better, but both of these teams so far have had ultimates, maybe in the excitement of being in the open division, being on stream, maybe have the sort of jitters and excitement and the adrenaline pumping that sometimes that kind of thing happens. ONYX on the defense here are going to be running a fairly aggressive composition, triple tank with the Hanzo, so they are wanting to get in the face of straight out of comp, who are going to be running an Orisa on this payload to try and chuck it along. J-Dog on the Widowmaker needs to find avenues for him to push himself through.
And J-Dog is definitely somebody that we'll be paying attention to here because of how well he played, and he's staying on that character that he was hot with in Widowmaker. So if J-Dog still makes a difference here, that's going to be a very good start for the side of Straight Outta Comp. They're pushing this card around this first corner here, trying to look for those openings and opportunities right now with that Orisa, trying to melt that shield of the Reinhardt. They are being forced back a little bit here. No picks yet for J-Dog. They use the halt there, not able to get anybody. J-Dog moving into a position, though, up on some high ground, looking for somebody. And Pasta Knight, though, going to strike first as they take out that main tank, and that'll cause the retreat here by Straight Outta Comp until they can get that res back. So still managed to have a 6v6 here, but they're not finding those picks that they need. And as they say that, though, they finally take out Sparrow. Now they can camp that too. They can allow for that res to not come in, and there's not a chance for it too because you don't have a Mercy out there. And J-Dog finally finds one. Now they get their start, and J-Dog again.
The Holt actually set up that shot so perfectly. Seraph was pulled into the air by the Orisa, and the follow-up shot, it was a flick shot too from J-Dog. It's been terrific. He's constantly finding these shots. He was a bit quiet to begin with, has the info sight, so he knows exactly where ONYX are. But J-Dog is just, it's unbelievable to see how strong he is on this hero. To begin with, on Rialto, he struggled to find like an angle that he could really surprise ONYX from. But as soon as that first pick came through, Straight Out Comp were able to barrel through this first point of Rialto. J-Dog was able to find those picks that he was desperate for.
And you almost wonder why they didn't even try him on Lijiang Tower on it a little bit more. I know that there's not ideal for every map, but there's still some maps where that the Widowmaker can still be used. This is definitely one there. J-Dog on a flank right now as well. Coalescence used here, but Transcendence is the answer. J-Dog finds Seraph right after he gets the strike, though, and now the barrage coming out here. Robin does manage to get Sparrow, and now the Graviton Surge used here by the defense to try and get this, but J-Dog is just still popping up. It's not going to matter, and the self-destruct there from Instant Karma was into the river, so that didn't do anything. So now they just got to get Instant Karma off, and they'll get this card going. Moira has to retreat here, so going back towards his team is Mazessa. She's just trying to stay alive.
She's doing her best. Seraph is taking out the fight almost instantly. Struggled to understand why she wasn't behind the Reinhardt shield, which was right behind her. ONYX so far looking to try and find a way to actually shut down J-Dog. These whole Widowmaker combinations have been amazing so far. He's completely on fire. We do see Seraph on the Widowmaker, Pasta Knight on the Hanzo as a double sniper come to try and contest that. But so far, it just doesn't look like it's working.
It definitely hasn't been. They don't seem to have an answer for the Widow. What will be their answer here is they're starting to get close to that third point. Going to start off with the supercharger is going to be Phil Rowe. J-Dog able to take out Instant Karma easily with it. Finding another one too. J-Dog is just insane right now, and his team following up afterwards.
This is ridiculous. So Widowmaker hasn't really been played an awful lot in this meta simply because Hammond is a really good hero at shutting her down. The issue is when you're in open division, some of these teams may not be too familiar with playing with him. They're not scrimming or playing with him an awful lot in competitive. So there isn't really a solid answer for ONYX to run here, maybe other than like an Orisa Roadhog one support combination, which we saw a lot in the Overwatch League. Doesn't actually get taken out by Pasta Knight, but is resurrected. Has the info sight, but is stuck right in the middle of the enemy team. Needs to back out, is taken out. But as I said, Widowmaker doesn't look like ONYX really ever countered to this or an answer.
The only thing is, though, is it gets a little bit harder when it gets a little bit smaller, when there's not quite those room, the area for the attacking team to use that Widowmaker. So will J-Dog be as effective? They have the ultimates, though, for this next fight. And they did make these couple of switches here to try and deal with it, as there's the Earth Shatter. Does manage to get Kiwi at the very least, but kept up because of the Valkyrie. And then there was the self-destruct there that'll take out Instant Karma. So this is the good start for the offense there. Maybe just too aggressive from Straight Outta Comp. It's now they're giving or sorry, from ONYX, they're giving Straight Outta Comp the opportunity to move this card towards that final point.
And they don't have a Transcendence either, so it's not a very good ultimate of being able to go there. But Kiwi does get taken out by a Trace. It does look like ONYX are going to be a bit more aggressive in nature. J-Dog trying to go for the shot, actually, onto Kiwi, but narrowly misses. Transcendence actually gets used by Kiwi. Sorry, I was talking about Sungam on ONYX before, just narrowly missing out on J-Dog. His fight's looking fairly scrappy.
By the way, Phil already got another supercharger, does a lot with it. Instant Karma does take it out, but not after most of the team was eliminated, so there's only 3 players left. As Possessa, she's just trying to keep up Sparrow right now, keeping him up so far, but they have to back away towards the rest of the team. This is probably going to be the final fight here. There is still 2:42 left, but if Straight Outta Comp wins this one, they will definitely win this match. Sereth with the good start, though, takes J-Dog out. Pressure gone, and now that forces back Straight Outta Comp, as they know that without J-Dog, they really don't have much of a chance.
Yeah, and J-Dog's been shut down quite religiously by ONYX. The Tracer, Seraph, has been able to sort of peel for getting into the backline, making sure that J-Dog, not so much killing him, he's dying a lot more on this third point than he has at all in this map so far on the attack. But the main point is that J-Dog can't really find an angle where he can go uncontested. The supports know where he is, so they're knowing to avoid the angle that he's going for. And now J-Dog is switching over to the McCree because he knows how little he can get out of Widowmaker on this attacking point.
Pasta Knight and Sereth were really committing themselves mostly to just taking care of J-Dog, and everything else was falling afterwards. Self-destruct, thrown over the top, doesn't do anything, does turn around. Robin, though, able to get 2. Pasta Knight does get him with the Storm Arrows afterwards, though, but already behind the 8 ball here. But oh, good Earth Shatter manages to get 2, and the Dragon Strike afterwards. Sparrow just gets out of it here, so it looked like their opening opportunity maybe going to go away here as the Self-Destruct gets 1. Well, it was actually the Pulse Bomb, but it was at the same time, so he had to use, that's what allowed Sarah to do it. And now Transcendence committed here to make sure that they win this fight. That's an ultimate that they might have to do here too, as you still have the respawns coming back in. Phil Rowe just swinging this hammer, though, trying to get it for his team, and now they start to finally turn this around. Instant Karma on the point here, trying to stall as long as possible. Transcendence, though, committed here to Kiwi. They think that this is going to be the one to win it. Now they just got to get Instant Karma off of the point, getting so close to that golden box, and they're not going to be able to get there. And evening this up is Straight Outta Comp 1-1.
It did look like ONYX may be able to pull that back once you got into the third point and the whole tempo slowed down. But that is a huge opportunity for Straight Outta Comp to come through to this, but also to go play to their strengths a little bit. You saw J-Dog on the Widowmaker proving tremendous work, but it did enable the rest of Straight Outta Comp to do a lot. This is where Sparrow on the right hat dies too quickly, and also can get the double kill with the bomb simply as there was no protection. And it was just a really valiant defense coming out of Straight Outta Comp on that third point, and then it absolutely braced through first and second, almost as quick as ONYX did.
I don't know if it was on the screen or not for you to see at home, but 27 critical shots was what J-Dog had. 27. That's insane. I just wanted to make sure we mentioned that, but we're going to bring Panda.
It was just really solid play overall, I feel, from just knowing the avenues and opportunities that you can take as a Widowmaker, to be able to work out exactly what angles you could go for, where ONYX were expecting him, and as soon as he knew, okay, they know where I'm going to position myself on the third point, he switched over to McCree, and whilst there wasn't the difference of taking the final point, it certainly did help his team out a lot more in a scrappy engagement.
Yeah, and then, of course, we're going to bring in our gracious host, Panda, to discuss with us more. So, Panda, frame the conversation how you want, because I'm sure there's a lot of things that you had from your perspective as well that you saw that maybe we didn't.
I am honestly just jaw-dropped by fantastic Widowmaker play. I mean, like Ryan was saying, I mean, we haven't seen much Widowmaker play in this current patch because of where Dive is headed again, where and especially with Wrecking Ball smashing his way into the meta, it's just so hard to feel a place of serenity for a Widowmaker to land those shots and to continuously make an impact. But J-Dog is showing us how. Now, I want to make something abundantly clear about this patch as well, is that this is a live support change. So Moira actually is gaining more healing from her Biotic Grasp. The Mercy healing is 10% less. The aura change for Lucio has been slightly increased. And I think we saw a lot about that on Lijiang Tower, just to bring it back a little bit. I know we got to digress off this fantastic Widow play just a little bit. We'll get back to it, don't worry. But Ryan, I got to say, you were mentioning in a 3-3 composition, the team fights are a certain... I guess they get a little bit lengthier. Can you elaborate on that? Why is 3-3 so strong in that manner?
You have three big tanks with a large health pool. You have Lucio constantly healing people up. You have Moira that's able to dish out a lot of support and is one of the better healers when running with a lot of tanks. Brigitte as well to add on to the passive healing, the armor that she can give. You just have this element of a team stacking up together, sitting on a point and being very difficult to move. And because of that, we did see straight out a comp really having no answer to that. It's not really as if you can run, say, Widowmaker against that because you don't have the potential to get picks onto stuff like Zenyatta's, onto Baby Divas out when they're out of mech, just small squishy targets. So it really is one of those meta problems that I see you come out where the answer to a good goats comp or like free composition is running it yourself or trying to run a Junkrat, which we saw straight out comp do. So now that ONYX do have the map pick for the next map, which I believe is going to be Assault, it wouldn't be a surprise to see them basically come out and just run that composition over and over again.
Absolutely, and we saw J-Dog mostly play Hanzo on Lijiang Tower as well, and not as impactful against the heavy shield compositions and all that armor that you were mentioning. Not to mention how much healing was just coming out of the side of ONYX, really making a rock formation, if you will, on how to hold a point. Now, Labosco, we only have so much time here, so I want to make sure that we definitely comment on Rialto. I want to definitely note on how I guess how difficult it is coming into that third point, especially when you're defending as a team with Widowmaker and these hit scan changes that are coming through. J-Dog was making a heavy impact on that side. I mean, you were personally losing your mind. I was sitting over here riling about it. I was having a good time listening to you guys, having a good time as well. Can you elaborate slightly on how J-Dog was able to come up so huge on that third point defense? Because I mean, we saw ONYX, they were looking so strong. They too also had 4 minutes walking into point C, but they just came up short.
They really, the one thing about when you're talking about 3-3 comps or just comps that are a little more static is it's hard to take care of a flanking Widowmaker, and J-Dog was just in positions where they couldn't really get to him without having to go through the teeth of the team. And he was flanking a lot too, especially on offense. I think that J-Dog just knew what he wanted to do as Widowmaker and just did whatever it mattered, and he was finding the correct targets. He had a grapple shot when the respawns were coming back, and this is another thing. The staggers that he was creating. He hit the Zenyatta. He grappled into the air right where there's that overarch where when you're coming back from third point spawn as an attacking team, and that's what 10 15 20 seconds lost there just to even get back to that archway now that you have to wait for your Zen. And this is like they're by their spawn. They think they're fine. So he was, once they won that first team fight, it opened up him to do a lot more, and he just created staggers. And then they were, I think that ONYX maybe was getting a little bit put into a tough spot because they were just 6v5 a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And well said. As we are moving into our next map, it is Assault. Ryan, you are very right to assume that it's going to be a Widowmaker favor. It's going to be Temple of Anubis. Now we get to find out if J-Dog is truly nutty or if there's something more at play. You two, go ahead and take it away. Have a great time.
Well, I want to first address the fact that we are going to Temple of Anubis. Are you shocked by this move by ONYX when we know that this is a map where even in this current meta, you can still use Widowmaker?
I'm not really surprised considering the other map that they could pick was Horizon. I think Temple of Anubis is much more favored. And I do think that ONYX themselves can run a composition that will shut down J-Dog. Of course, J-Dog is going to lock in at Widowmaker straight away. Of course, Symmetra is enabled here. It's going to be interesting to see if straight out comp do run her, because she does have a lot of good use here, simply because a lot of these teams, you see Orisa going up onto the high ground on defense. You have the May prop them up with the ice wall. But as soon as Orisa drops down from that high bit of perch ground, which I think we're going to be seeing out of straight out of comp, you fall down, you can't get back up. So having a Symmetra here might actually be a valid strategy. This might be the first time that we see new Symmetra in any competitive sense in the upper division. It does look like Robin Norge maybe wanted to run it, but it might just be to prop the Orisa up in the first place. It might decide to change.
We did see Diem play it at the competitors level, but it was for a very short amount of time, and like you said, running straight back to spawn and going to switch off of it. But still, you at least get this up here. When you give that extra protection, that's just another thing off of J-Dog's back to worry about here.
It's going to be interesting to see what ONYX do respond with. They are looking to run a sort of more of a divey comp, which is quite interesting. It's going to be very difficult to break through this kind of composition that straight out comp want to run. And because of that, I feel these first couple of minutes could be patchy for ONYX if they can't find the picks that they need, especially with no long-range heroes like Widowmaker themselves. Straight out comp, making sure that ONYX don't get any further than that gateway right in front of them.
The one thing that they do have going for them is that the targets that are all going to dive, that they would want to dive, they're all in one place. So it's not like they have many places where they're going to have to decide on where they want to make their dive happen too. It's just a matter of how can you focus, but it doesn't matter. J-Dog starts it off, taking out your Mercy.
Straight away, ONYX have to sort of decide what they want to do. They can't really back off. You can see J-Dog swinging around to make sure that there's no easy exit for ONYX here. So they're kind of stuck in an awkward position between two DPS that want to mow them down. So considerable stall here from ONYX, or onto ONYX, sorry. Straight out comp are going to be really comfortable on this high ground here.
Good use of the bubble, though, but he finds another one anyways. He finds your Zenyatta instead because you put too much into protecting your Mercy. So you are down a Zenyatta here. Ozzy going down, and we'll take out Sparrow as well. So a very good start here for the defense for Straight Outta Comp. Now they just have to try and take out the rest. Mazessa does get the res off onto Sparrow, so she's able to do that, and the defense is going to fall here. So J-Dog was doing what he needed to, but the rest of his team unfortunately fell around him.
Yeah, Zeke dying that early on in that fight was a huge detriment to Straight Outta Comp's ability to hold it. ONYX played that really well. They managed to control all areas of high ground, meaning that as soon as J-Dog tried to grapple away as the Widowmaker, Astanite was well chasing after them to cut them down. And from there, ONYX could just take apart Straight Outta Comp's lineup. A dive coming straight in. It's very aggressive coming out of ONYX here.
Philro, though, able to get one with that hammer, and Sparrow, who had jumped in, the pulse bomb, manages to get Sereth, or Kiwi, excuse me, from Sereth. I didn't think it was going to catch Sereth, finding another one with the help of that self-destruct. Dragon Strike here in desperation onto the point, but the kill's still going the other way. Dragon Blade here now as well. With the help of that, they're able to get J-Dog again, and now they've already got one tick, building up to another one. Pasta Knight, insane.
He got 5 kills with the Dragon Blade quintuple, and they're going to take the point in a fairly quick fashion. That was really well played from ONYX. It didn't look like it was going to be easy or straightforward, especially after losing that first engagement and looking a bit patchy from there. But they were able to break down what Straight Outta Comp wanted to do with their strategy, being able to take the purchase of high ground that they needed. And they took that momentum straight away onto the second point so quickly that it was very difficult for us to even talk about what just happened before ONYX were even on the point, which showed the aggressive nature coming out of this team. Past the night on the Genji with the Dragon Blade right there was just the icing on the cake.
Very great Dragon Blade. I think one thing too, Ryan, is the one thing you saw from the side of ONYX is composure. When you do have your Mercy get picked off like that, that's an easily tilting moment that it can be for a team. And if they still were able to keep their composure, get back together, and they were able to stick with the plan that they had.
It was the worst situation that ONYX could be in, having a main healer die and being stuck in the patchy areas of Anubis, being stuck in the backline almost, with no real way in or out. But they went about that in such a way that they were able to get themselves back to full strength. They lost Sungam very early in that fight on the Zenyatta to J-Dog on the Widowmaker, and still managed to win it out, which shows that they're able to know what they're doing. They know what their roles are on the team. They know exactly what positions they should take, what targets to hunt for. So as soon as the fight even up with the pick potential, ONYX were able to just completely rip apart Straight Outta Comp's composition.
I don't know if you were missing Contenders China, Ryan, but Straight Outta Comp is making sure that we don't miss it too much with the comp that they're running with the Widowmaker and the Genji here with dive tanks and the Zen and Mercy.
It's carry potential, right? It's the Widowmaker finding those picks. It's the Dragon Blade coming out of Genji, the dive being able to create space for them, make sure that they can do what they want. It's going to be interesting to see how aggressive we see Straight Outta Comp coming out of the doors here, and also how this 1v1 on the Widowmaker goes with Seraph and J-Dog.
ONYX running the exact same composition that we're seeing. So we've got mirror comps here for both sides. You don't have that Orisa up top. Seraph right now sitting on the point and dealing the damage out. So just positioning themselves in a spot here to try and maybe get their dive in. But here comes Sparrow diving by himself, though nobody was with him. He dove a little bit too far, and J-Dog makes him pay for it. So 6v5 at the start. So now they'll be able to push forward for Straight Outta Comp, but they're taking their time here. A little surprised by this. Now they start to move forward, looking for that dive target. They haven't made their decision yet. I think they're maybe just waiting for another pick to come out. They have a diva on the left, And now the Mercy coming out. They decide to go right instead. Phil Rowe does, and he does manage to get Sun Gam. Pasta Knight, though, does take J-Dog out as he's able to get back into the fight and help out. Ozzy does manage to get Mercy, but I think that the defense is going to be able to stabilize here. Valkyrie, though, committed by Zeke. They don't want to give this up, even though they're in a precarious position, and they're going to use the res here as well. They're still putting into this fight. Self-destruct, though, will clear everybody away by instant karma. This has been a super odd fight, as now the Staggerers coming back in, and they will end up winning this eventually for Straight Outta Comp.
Such a long fight, and that's given both teams, mostly Straight Outta Comp, a lot of ult charge. They're going to be ready for this next engagement with a Transcendence for the oncoming Dragon Blade that will be coming out past the night. And also, speaking of Dragon Blade, Robin has his own. Infrasight has been used from Straight Outta Comp. They need to match the momentum and intensity that ONYX had on the second point to see if they could take it just around the same time. They won't be able to do it quicker, but that's a great opening for them right there.
Self-destruct now inside, as well as able to get the Mercy. Phil Rowe with another, now Robin with the blade, able to get one as well. Transcendence here coming through, and actually that was Pasta Knight's. Robin still holding on to his. See when he decides to use it, as now he does pull it out, and now quickly dashes in and takes out instant karma, dashes through another, and Ozzy finishes it off.
A Transcendence!
Sun Gam to stall out here for as long as possible, as now you also have the Mercy use her ult as well, and Mazessa's, she's just trying to keep this going for her team, but the offense still getting the picks. They're going to have a smaller time bank if they can get this finish. They just have to deal with these players coming in. Pasta Knight coming in, though, using this Doomfist, punching his way through, but it's not going to be enough, it looks like. Still Staggers coming in, though, stalling as long as possible is ONYX, and they finally do have everybody go down except for their Tracer and Seraph, and now they'll get that third. Can anybody get back? The Diva's going to be close, doesn't get there in time. So ONYX does have the bigger time bank, but Straight Outta Comp still did a good job.
Yeah, only 45 seconds difference between the time banks, which says a lot. I think Straight Outta Comp looked like they were able to use their ultimates in such a fashion that really delayed ONYX, but there was some really good stall coming out towards the end. It was just a game. You have more people on the attacking team on point than the defenders, then the spawn time starts to go up for ONYX, and they start to wither and die out on the objective, trying to stall as much as possible, then eventually have to lose it. There's no way that they can realistically come back.
Now,
what I saw from that was really interesting was Seraph on the Widowmaker on the defense looked very scared, was sort of shooting from very conservative points on the map where he had a lot of protection, really didn't want to go toe-to-toe with J-Dog as he was taking all of the space on the little bridge as you're coming into the attacking spot. It was a long fight, but really ONYX failed to get the picks that they needed to hold out on this first objective. Then that momentum was taken straight through to Straight Outta Comp on the second point.
It's funny because I was just about to ask you about that. Seraph has kind of been mulling about his pick here. He was on Tracer at first. Now he's on to the Hanzo. Do you like this pick from him after what you saw on their last defense, which just happened?
I think for Seraph, it's a case of how much of his attention does he want to put into J-Dog. It's not his job solely to make sure that the Widowmaker can't come through. So it's a bit more of a universal pick. He can be used to obviously contest the Widowmaker at range, but also has some good options in case the dive comes in from the tanks. We can use the Storm Arrows to just completely burst through targets very, very quickly. And because of that, he is actually taken out straight away by J-Dog.
He was not by the rest of his team either. I was going to say that means that he can sort of be positioned by his team, but he wasn't at all. And now you have Robin able to get one, but Sparrow does manage to get Kiwi at the very least, as the defense looks like they're not going to be able to hold this, though, as they quickly fall here. And it's going to be another quick take for Straight Outta Comp.
No ultimates needed or necessary from Straight Outta Comp. They've just been sitting nicely. Does mean that they won't have much for this attack, but they are building up ultimates slowly. I guess the main one that you want in a situation like this is that Infrasight from J-Dog. Having that information handy is going to be huge. ONYX right now have to hold for just less than 5 minutes on the second point. This could be a high-scoring game.
It's going to be extremely high scoring, especially if Straight Outta Comp gets another quick take here. They're very far from all their ultimates, but thankfully Straight Outta Comp is too. But Ozzy starting off good, and Seraph already out of this fight early on, so this is a good start. J-Dog finding the Mercy, so no res is going to come through. Pasta Knight trying to turn it back, but J-Dog continues forward with this Widowmaker, and then Robin as well. So now they get the point. They're already up to one tick. Instant Karma coming back onto the point here along with the Winston, as the blade coming out here from the side of Robin. Hasn't been able to find anyone yet, but he's still doing damage, and now he's able to get instant karma after the blade ends as they quickly get this, and they're still going to have, it looks like, maybe 4 minutes if they can get this Tracer off of the point.
Both of these teams are so reliant on having ultimates and momentum, but it does look like ONYX is stalling this by the skin of their teeth. Dragonblade comes out from past night, does get Zeke, so this could be the end of this push on 99.4%.
He only gets one so far, but he does get Zeke, so that's such an important target out of this fight. J-Dog does manage to get Sungam, but the rest of his team is falling here, so it looks like they might end up being able to hold on and stabilize here. The Dragon Blade just coming at the right time, like you said, and now no Dragon Blade, but he's building up to it fast again.
Seraph has been on Tracer, the Hanzo obviously didn't work out to his favor, so he's now going to try and contest the backline, I suppose, for J-Dog, try and make sure that the Widowmaker can get comfortable. Infocyte does get used early in this fight. He's looking for a pick before his team has even reached the point. But we do know that ONYX are privy to where he is. They're not going to sort of poke in a position where they're going to get taken out. So it's quite easy for them to sort of survive this influx.
Looking for that pick. He's still in a place. He hasn't really been bothered a whole lot. He does help Philro finish off one of the targets. They manage to get two here, but Self-Destruct takes Philro out. So they're already down one of their main tanks. They're going to use their sound barrier here. Didn't look like it caught too many. Does get three as Zeke gets hit with the pulse bomb, though. Seraph, though, ends up getting caught into it as well. And now Robin using the blade again. Robin Rogue looking for one. J-Dog able to take Pasta Knight out of this fight. They still at least have Kiwi here to try and keep players up on this, and you still have J-Dog away from the point, but the reason seem to be too strong, but J-Dog able to get Sungam, and the Moira falling as well. Self-destruct here forces players off. They're so close to getting this, as they do get instant karma out of the mech here in this fight as well, but they're just not getting the kills quick enough, it looks like. Especially now you have the Primal Rage coming in here to stall out to let the respawns come back in. And now Pasta Knight with the blade to clear them out. But Pasta Knight gets taken out by J-Dog and finds another. J-Dog has been insane.
He's just sort of stood on his high ground. He's not being contested at all because ONYX just can't do it. They know that he's there. They're working around it as much as they possibly can, but J-Dog is still finding resources here. But amazing stall coming out of ONYX to hold this for about 2.5 minutes on this stall. Still 99.4%. It does look eventually that Straight Outta Comp are going to lose this one out. But that was some amazing way to make a play to shut down full ultimates. Never mind getting the picks needed.
J-Dog does make the switch here too, and this seems like the right point to do this too, Ryan, because even though he's getting picks, he's still not contributing enough when players aren't in his line of sight.
Exactly, and as I said, like ONYX are gonna be they're gonna know where he is because essentially J-Dog had to switch off Widowmaker there because whilst he was on that high ground, he was there so Seraph couldn't contest him on the Tracer, and unfortunately his sightlines were a bit skewed. Straight away ONYX are gonna win out this fight, even though Straight Outta Comp haven't dedicated anything to it, so they're just gonna get out.
And they actually forced out a lot of ultimate. Sungam used a sound barrier there at the end, and his team had pretty much won the fight. Was a little bit surprised by that, but the only problem is kind of staggered right now is the rest of Straight Outta Comp. They need to try and get back together. J-Dog needs to try and escape. He's getting chased down here. He's so close, and he does get felled by instant karma, so they have to wait now for that to come back with 35 seconds left to go.
This has been terrific from ONYX so far to be able to stall out this point. They had 4 minutes that they could have easily clocked in their second objective to make the score 4 with 4 minutes on the clock. But ONYX did so well to stall it in the last second and now look to be in pole position to make sure that this map doesn't go to an extra set. They just want to make sure, but Coalescence is going to come through early. Straight Outta Comp good aggressive.
And they've got already Pasta Knight out of the equation here at the start. And now Robin going to use the Dragon Blade here. Has the help of the sound barrier to keep him up. Self-destruct. Bubbles allows most of the team to hide away from it. Sparrow, though, does manage to take out Philro in that time while he's using that Primal Rage, but Kiwi and Robin still combining. And now Zeke as well, J-Dog, they're finding the picks needed here. Self-destruct towards the spawn as they just need to get this tick going, and they should be able to get it here in overtime. So they do manage to complete it, but there's no time left on the clock, but they are at 4-2.
So they need to make sure that they can hold the next 2 points if they can with less than a minute on the clock for ONYX. Straight Outta Comp are going to be annoyed that they didn't do it quicker. They could have done it with 4 minutes left, but unfortunately had to do it in overtime. But they should be glad that they finished off the point. It means that they will go to another attacking round if necessary. ONYX need to try and match it. They do have 6 minutes on the clock. Can they do it just as quickly? It could be potentially be there, but they need to be careful of J-Dog's Widowmaker. And I feel that as soon as J-Dog switched off the Widow, the impact that Straight Outta Comp had on this attack was a lot smaller.
It definitely seemed that way. And do you think that maybe he made the switch a little bit too late, too, for J-Dog? I mean, they still managed to get the cap right, but I think it was like at maybe the 2-minute mark or even less than that when he finally did it.
The issue there was that the fight went on for so long. It wasn't as if he could just sort of leave and go, well, I'm going to change. He didn't die at all. He was constantly there. The rest of Straight Outta Comp continuously came onto the point, kept contesting. It was still ticking up, and he was uncontested that whole time. So it wasn't as if that he would just die and reset and, change hero there. It was a bit more difficult for him to say, hey, this isn't working, when they're constantly on the point on 99%. You'd assume at that point it'd be easy to take, but that was some terrific play out of ONYX to stall, to make sure that they didn't get picked by the Widowmaker, by J-Dog, to make sure that they weren't going to get taken out. ONYX here running dive. They're running the Widowmaker straight out of comp and not.
And it's Pasta Night this time, too, as well. We haven't seen Pasta Night on it. It's supposedly been
Kiwi,
Sarah, but he gets Kiwi at the start. So good start for them. And J-Dog now here trying to do work on the Tracer, but he's going to end up not being able to, and his team's falling around him. Zeke and Ozzy already down here, so J-Dog staying alive. And as I say that, he gets taken out by the Mercy.
So that's more time on the clock for ONYX to push onto this second point, and they just need to do it in more than a minute, and they have plenty of time to do that. But you'd say the same thing about Straight Outta Comp on that final fight. Kiwi been taken out of that point so quickly by the Widowmaker. Literally the first shot of the game was such a huge loss. Now Kiwi's going to switch over to Moira just to make sure that they can't get picked. They're running a 3-3 competition though.
They do still have, they got the Brigitte here as well for the defense. So Straight Outta Comp making a couple of extra switches as well. Maybe they want to try and make sure that they can shield bash Sheriff. Looks like deciding to change up what they're doing, though, is the side of ONYX. They've made the switches here. Sereth has gone over to the Pharah.
It's going to be interesting to see how that works. He's obviously spotted that Straight Outta Comp are running this 3-3 composition. That it just means that they can put in a chunk of damage from distance and fight at range and make sure that Straight Outta Comp can't get any effective use because they're all close quarters heroes. So fighting at range, there's very little they can do about it.
You do have Ozzy, though, up top, trying to deal as much damage, just trying to force Sereth away from where the team is. But Pasta Knight able to get that early pick at the start of this fight. So this starts off pretty well for the side of ONYX. Sereth now finding Philro, so your main tank out. Self-destructs from both teams, but it's instant karma who gets anything out of it, and now Transcendence on the point to allow everyone to stay alive. Just have to try and take out these last few players that are on here, but they're going to have rally up into this fight to stray in front. But instant karma finding Robin as now using the barrage here as Sereth manages to get the shield down at the very least, and one in Zeke, as now the Coalescence is committed here to try and keep Straight Outta Comp in this one, as Ozzy going off right now, getting too quickly on the Doomfist, looking for another. Not able to find one yet, but still dealing damage.
He's trying to get a pick onto the spots that are both alive, keeping themselves alive too. Sungam actually finishing off at this push, but ONYX is still attacking this point. Seraph on the Pharah is uncontested in the air, it feels. His pharmacy combination is working so well to them, although Miziza just get taken out by the Tracer by J-Dog. So now we're going to see ONYX backing off. There's still 3.5 minutes on the clock.
Ozzy was a bit of a hero there, just switching over to that Doomfist and just getting those all-important picks at the start of that fight too. Back onto the Diva now, but that's one of those stall tactics that if you can make it work, especially on a point like Temple of Anubis, you really have a chance. Sungam, though, getting the start here. Ozzy able to get Sungam, though, as well. So it's 5v5 here. Barrage out again. Sereth's able to get 3 at the start of this fight. That might be what they need to get this back for ONYX here. They just have J-Dog left here. They're finally starting to get this point to build up. They only have 2 on. Not getting it built up as fast. Now they get 3. Now they jump on as the sound barrier used as they come back in. Graviton surge in as well.
It's such a big ultimate, but it does look like ONYX is still going to be able to sort of survive through this. Zeke is doing his best to stall as Lucio. It is eventually burnt down. It does look like it's J-Dog left. He's going to stall at the last second, but it's taken out before he can use a pulse bomb. So ONYX are going to take it. They will have extra time to do it in. Straight Outta Comp are playing for a draw right now.
a pretty big time bank too to try and take 33%, 2 minutes and 40 seconds here to try and take it 5-4. When you only have 33% and your attack just went so well for the first time, you pretty much have to think you go with the same thing they did there, where Pasta Knight's on the Widow and Sarah's on the Tracer, or do you change it up because you think that maybe that's what they're expecting from Straight Outta Comp?
So Straight Outta Comp have run two very different styles of defense. They ran the reset on the high ground like they're going to run this time, and then they tried to run a more traditional dive on the defense. Both were pretty terrible for them, to be fair. They lost the first point in 90 seconds on both occasions, and that momentum was taken through to the second point. Now they just need to protect a third. That is their sort of win condition, or draw condition. They can't even win it Straight Outta Comp. So they must be feeling pretty worried about themselves. They are going to be running J-Dog and a Widowmaker, a lot of resources put on this high ground with the Orisa. So now they're hoping that they can survive a little bit longer than they have done in the last previous two attempts.
Pasta Knight and Seraph back on the Widow and the Tracer, and like you said, they are going with that same comp they did before. The one thing to point out here, though, about what they're seeing from the other side is, they didn't have this Widow and this Tracer comp against this. The one thing with Seraph is he's going to have to try and get onto this high ground where pretty much the entire team is, except for the D.Va. So getting that scouted out here fairly quick. J-Dog got Sungam at the start, so already losing out on the res, and then he dies again. Nobody was able to protect him.
Speaking of which, D.Va's trying to go to the point to contest it, to bring down Straight Outta Comp off this high ground. As soon as Phil Rowe and the Orisa has to drop, that composition, the strength of what Straight Outta Comp are running drops dramatically. So they're just trying to tease the point a little bit, try and flirt with it, try and get people to drop down from Straight Outta Comp from this high ground. It doesn't seem that they're going to be buying. Kiwi goes down, this is huge.
Yeah, Pasta Knight has made the switch to Genji, and he's making it work here at the start. J-Dog does get Sparrow, though, so they're still up on that high ground. They have to start deciding to go down here. Phil Rowe's going to have to eventually go down because Seraph is doing work on the point. Finally drops down, but it's too little, too late. ONYX will win this one and go up 2-1.
Well, we still have another map to play, at least Straight Outta Comp. Look a lot stronger here than they did on Control. But how good they looked on the payload maps, full escort of Rialto. Now we're going to be going to hybrid, so it's a different, similar style of play there. Assault is a little bit different. There was a lot of stalls, some amazing play out of ONYX to maintain hold of the point. But he also seemed to have a bit more of an answer to J-Dog's Widowmaker.
We get to see that Pasta Knight ult there again. And like you said, this is definitely a map where Straight Outta Comp can still have a chance. But I think the one thing to point out there is ONYX seemed to figure out what they wanted to do against J-Dog. They did handle him a lot better there on a map that Widow can be pretty strong on. Still, what do you think was the biggest determining factor, though, for them in handling J-Dog, or do you think it was just the map helped them out a little bit?
They knew what they were going into. It was like that ace was played from Straight Outta Comp, and it's a great ace to have, don't get me wrong, but both times that they run that Orisa defense, Pasta Knight on the Genji managed to go around the flank, get a kill very quickly. It gave J-Dog no option to move around as the Widowmaker because the other Petrified Ground was taken by ONYX too. So they knew to take things patiently. They knew when to execute, when and how much space they had to maintain that dive to go in to get a pick and not get killed themselves by that strategy. We are going to be going to Hollywood, though, on the hybrid map. This is interesting considering the King's Row was in the hero pool, and everybody loves to go to King's Row at this level. So very surprising that Straight Outta Comp has taken this here, but maybe because of the second point, Widowmaker can be used a lot more.
It's a very good Widowmaker. Part is the streets phase of Hollywood. You can use Widowmaker 2 here at the start as well. It looks like J-Dog will. Robin is showing us too the Robin Ogre doing the Orge, is doing the Hanzo, at least for right now. So you have the double sniper comp that is a possibility here that they're going to use. And it looks like maybe we're going to get some more 3-3 from the side of ONYX. At least that's what they're showing us early on.
You'd expect. I think that's a solid strategy to run, certainly on this first point, because it's so enclosed. Straight Outta Comp need to be aware of that. They are going to be running, or we're going to be running double snipers potentially on defense, but have now switched over to have a Brigitte instead. So they're expecting a brawly composition, but they know keeping J-Dog on any hero that isn't Widowmaker is going to be a big problem to them. So it's a bit of a pseudo lineup that they're running, but it might just work out in their favor, playing to their strengths, knowing what ONYX are going to be running at them with, and it might just work out. It is going to be difficult for J-Dog to get picks, especially on a lineup that is fairly beefy and has a lot of health.
And they say to never get off the table when you're on a heater, and J-Dog on Widowmaker has been on a heater, and why stop here? That's
exactly right. Like, this is the sort of Open Division in a nutshell, though. You need to find what suits you, what playstyle, what strengths that your team has, and play to them, especially in a very diverse meta. Granted, a lot of talk is around this free composition that ONYX are currently running on the top right, sorry. So it would be uncommon to see teams just running that lineup constantly. J-Dog just trying to get some pot shots in, but it is going to be really tough to get the same amount of impact as he's had previously.
I want to see how him and Robin try and combine two of those, but trying to not give any time to the other side. J-Dog does manage to get one, but Pharaoh gets taken out because of Sparrow charging in, and Robin quickly falls as well. So they're already in a bad spot. Zeke is able to get the res on, and J-Dog's still doing work from up top. Now has to drop onto the point, and this looks like they're going to be able to win this because of J-Dog.
He actually saved this round for him. The point is ticking up. ONYX got a third, but it was an amazing play from J-Dog to actually kill a Brigitte as she was about to stun the resin Zeke. I think one of the biggest problems here for Straight Out Comp, who look to be maybe losing this point. If it isn't for the stall, they're going to try and hold on for as long as possible. But one thing to highlight is that when you're running the Mercy instead, you don't have the AoE healing. So if everybody's taking damage to a Reinhardt's cleave with his normal holding left click, holding his hammer, it's very difficult to keep everybody alive. But they are stalling this a little bit.
The rest of their respawns are starting to come back here as well. Sparrow charging in again. It's what got them into a good position. Transcendence out here. See if J-Dog can get into a spot to deal out some more damage as his team's forcing back the rest of ONYX. So they do manage to get... Oh, they just didn't get the second tick.
65.9%. So, like, yeah, less than a percent short of getting 2 ticks. So it does give Straight Out a comp a little bit more room to breathe. Having that Graviton is going to be huge for them as well to quell any form of attack that's coming in from ONYX, but they have ultimates of their own, building up their Graviton fairly quickly too.
So they come back around here. They know they want to push in quickly, but they get forced right into the Graviton Surge, and then the Shatter's huge, but Coalescence quickly out here, keeping everybody up in this fight, and Sparrow's able to find Robin at the beginning here, and now looking for another one. J-Dog does manage to get instant karma at least out of mech, but his team's falling on the point. Ozzy trying to keep it going. Good res is Zeke using that Valkyrie to keep himself in the air. So there's still a chance here potentially for the defensive. J-Dog
There's another shatter.
What a quick shatter again as he's stuck in a Graviton Surge, but he's kept up through it. Rest of his team isn't those the only problem. So finally, it looks like ONYX is maybe going to be able to get this if they could just get the last few players out, as they finally do, and they get that second tick and should be able to get this third.
That really does show the amount of healing that this composition can do that ONYX are running. Being stuck in a Graviton, all earth shattered and kept alive by the sound barrier and the coalescence from Moira. And then earlier on, the fact that Philro got 2 earth shatters in the space of 2 minutes shows how much damage he did, yet nothing died on ONYX's side. So this is really difficult to break through. The amount of healing that ONYX has available to them is huge, and keeping up their beefy main tank, especially on Sparrow, alive, and he has earth shatter fairly soon.
And J-Dog gets instant karma, who manages to get Kiwi, though, with the self-destruct. So a trade here for 1 tank for 1 support. And now an Earth Shatter by Sparrow as he comes in, takes out 1. Now looking for another one here as Possessa's in there as well. Graviton Surge catches the tanks in it, but they're not able to be felled as there's not enough damage coming through. Pasta Knight taking advantage, though, after the Graviton Surge to get a couple, and Sparrow charging in, gets Ozzy to get some damage down. Hasn't taken him out yet. Now finally falls as Philro, the one who's benefiting right now from the Mercy healing. So that card quickly coming through this Streets phase and just making it harder and harder for J-Dog to do much for his team.
Meanwhile, J-Dog has mostly been uncontested on this high ground, has had to back off a little bit because of instant camera on the Diva. You can see him lining up his shots, able to try and get a pick, but just nothing is happening. So much healing and so many targets that don't get one shot by the Widowmaker sniper. Now there's a big problem on the side of Straight Out of comp. As J-Dog's on the high ground trying to find picks, does get Sungam, but his payload is moving on through with the amount of bodies that is on that objective.
So J-Dog quickly eliminated there. He has been dealing out a lot of damage, but like you said, not taking out any targets. We'll see if for this final point, if he decides to make a switch here. Sparrow, though, able to find a staggered out Robin, who I don't know why Robin was there.
He's trying to be aggressive, trying to scout out areas as a Hanzo. The obvious flaw for ONYX's lineup is that they aren't very close quarters. Saying that Coalescence does get used, the only at-range ability that they seem to have. So they're going to put in a chunk of damage, make sure that they can try and get this stall continuing onto straight out comp. Maybe find a pick, make sure that they're stuck in spawn, and having a 6 versus 5 all the way through to the final point. 3 minutes on the clock, Diva Bomb gets used aggressively.
J-Dog here on Hanzo right now. Robin quickly taken out by that self-destruct. Couldn't really get away. Ozzy, though, able to get Sarah. So now in comes the Earth Shatter by Sparrow. Finds one as he's able to charge in. But Philro, though, swinging away. Able to keep this maybe going for a second. But no, he gets taken out. Zeke can't heal him. And nobody gets to the cart. Robin couldn't get down on the Pharah. And they quickly take this point.
As soon as that payload started moving, that momentum started swinging in ONYX's favor. Straight out of comp didn't seem to really have an answer to halt the payload at all. They did so well holding the first objective, but as I said, once the payload started to truck along into the second and third stages, even with J-Dog on the Widowmaker, he couldn't find the important picks. He couldn't make that impact that we've seen so far from him. Really does show the strengths to the meta so far and why this 3-3 competition with GOATs is so strong.
The amount of healing definitely is incredible, and when you can't one-shot the target, it makes it so difficult. J-Dog has to figure out what he's going to do to try and help his team get this. It looks like his answer maybe is to switch to Hanzo. Hanzo is at least a little bit more viable in this meta, Ryan, just with the fact that he can do a lot more damage and just help melt the shields.
It's rough. It's so difficult to do. That's why you're seeing a change onto straight out of comp on this attack. They can't really run what they did on defense on attack either because they need to have some form of tempo, especially if they want to match ONYX's time bank. So we're going to be seeing Pharah on the attack with the Hanzo to try and scout out, take little patches of high ground, which is something that ONYX weren't able to do on the second point, especially. J-Dog was up there on the Widowmaker, only contested by the Diva on a number of occasions. But it's just complete free real estate if the enemy team is running this free tanks, free supports lineup because they can't reach the high ground. Only Diva can do it. Reinhardt can't really do it. So you have a lot of people just staying on the payload, staying on the low ground itself.
Very confident in what they want to do, though, at least for ONYX. I mean, Pasta Night on the Hanzo is, I think, the one thing that's a little bit different than what we saw here. So we do have a Hanzo v Hanzo kind of going up on either side. And like you said, it's sort of that little bit of taking away from some of what the 3-3 does. But it is a standard 2-2-2 for the side of straight out of comp.
The free tanks is what's going to be interesting for ONYX, the amount of sustain that will have on the point. Sari especially can get effective use out of the amount of damage that he can put out. Past Night does get the first pick onto J-Dog. So this push straight away is going to be halted a little bit by straight out comp.
When deciding where they're going to go, they're starting to kite their way back is the side of straight out of comp. They do manage to get one, though. Robin able to get Sarah. So you do have that Zarya gone. So that's a very important target down here early. See how they decide to push in on it. Pasta Knight was on the right. It looks like he's going to be able to escape away, though. They're definitely spamming him out, though, keeping him out of this fight as they start to move towards the point. The Diva coming over from the house there by the point, now going onto the stairs to try and come in out. Coalescence used here, but Kiwi takes out Sparrow, so the Coalescence can't do enough to keep that going. Dragon Strike used here, though, defensively by ONYX. Pasta Knight manages to get the Zarya at the least. Robin, though, able to get Pasta Knight down afterwards. J-Dog coming in, gets instant karma out, but it's still a fight that the defense has a chance in. But Philro able to get one here using his Earth Shatter, swinging his hammer, and now just looking for the Moira, who's trying to escape away. Sparrow back on here, uses the Shatter himself to get one down, and now the Dragon Strike here from a creative spot. Looks like there's going to be a chance here for straight out of comp to get this. They just have to get these last few limbs.
And it's difficult because ONYX is still maintaining and holding the point, and it does actually look like they're going to be able to stall it for a little bit longer at least. Robin is taken out. They can maybe full hold this. Not even the third has been taken on the point from straight out of comp, and they have big ultimates available to them now. It's just how much they try and dedicate or plan for the future.
The spawns for both teams at this point are fairly even. The defense, I think, is not at really a disadvantage in the offense, doesn't have the advantage so much. So there's it's easy to get back as far as the defensive team, and now they have their full six back. But Robin getting Sungam at the start, though, should be the W button getting pressed from the rest up straight out of comp. But the self-destruct with the grabs only manages to get one. Transcendence here by Kiwi, and then using the Earth Shatter is Philro charging forward with Sparrow and gets him out. Pasta Knight, though, to get J-Dog in the meantime, so they lose out on a bit of damage. Sound barrier used here by Sungam. I don't know if he got any of his team in here, maybe one, and then the Earth Shatter. And that's the important one that he got, and Philro now the only one left here along with the Mercy. Ozzy just trying to get back with the rest of the team. They're going to get taken out again here, so another failed push that takes off a lot of time.
They only have a minute left on the clock, and it's amazing how ONYX have been able to stall this, especially with no ticks on the point, no percentage made, and the fact that ONYX seemed to get team wipes on numerous occasions, but managed to start out with a well-placed ultimate. Sungam's sound barrier there was the difference, kept Sparrow alive, kept the Reinhardt Earth Shatter available to him. Now Dragon Strike is going to take out Instant Karma, and now this could be their only opportunity to take this first point to the straight out of combo.
Sparrow charging in, though, not wanting to give up yet. Earth Shatter gets blocked here. Robin coming from up top, though, is able to do the damage with the barrage. So now they'll finally get their first tick. They should be able to take this. No one should be able to get back, but it took them so much time, Ryan.
Exactly, and now ONYX are going to sort of sit back a little bit. They're spawning, they're changing their lineup a little bit. Pasta Knight is now on the Genji. Seraph has gone from Zarya to Tracer. They want to play more of a traditional dive. They do have Misesa on the Moira. May want to change it to, say, like a Mercy at a late date, but that Coalescence is almost ready. That's why they're holding on to it.
93%, so it should be available sometime in this fight. See when Misesa just decides to use it. She's been pretty good with these Coalescence so far on the Moira. Just has to find the right opportunity. There's no ultimates yet on the other side, but both defensive ults are super close for the side of straight out comp. They are going to get stalled out a little bit here. And Instant Karma gets one, and now another with the help of the Coalescence as they continue to push forward. Philro does manage to get the Tracer and Seraph, but it's not really going to matter as the rest of the team is falling behind.
They do have the ability to hold on here, though. They do have a sound barrier again. Sungam has been on point with using them so far. This just works so well in ONYX's favor. There's very little time on the clock for straight out of comp. But they do have big ultimates. They have the Grav Dragon combo coming up with Ozzy almost having the Graviton. So it is just a case of ONYX having to hold on there, but Misesa goes down very early.
And that's going to be a tough spot, especially because they haven't had to use any ultimates yet. They're going to commit Transcendence at the start here. Make sure that they keep everybody up as they take out Pasta Knight, who is caught by himself diving in. So the rest of the team goes back towards where the spawn doors are as they want to make sure that they don't get staggered out anymore. As Misesa just sends up a ball up top for Sparrow. Sparrow, though, getting caught there. Instant Karma and the rest of the team starting to come around to try and make sure that they keep up their main tank. So good job rotating around to make sure they keep them in for this next fight. Instant Karma does get popped out of the mech, so self-destruct here, but the Earth Shatter by Philro. Not able to find anybody, though. An Instant Karma self-destruct gets one along with a Pulse Bomb. So they're turning this fight around here regardless, even though they were in a tough spot.
They still have that combination ready for them on the attack, but it's whether straight out are going to be able to fight on the objective and most importantly catch everybody in the Graviton. It has been nerfed recently. The size of it is a little bit smaller, and considering this composition that ONYX are running is so spread out and so mobile, it's going to be difficult to catch all six in with a Dragon Strike. Kiwi's going to change up to the Moira, Zeke on the Lucio. They're playing a more tempo aggressive support lineup, but is it going to be enough? 25 seconds on the clock.
The one thing that they do have going for them, if they do use this and at least catch a couple for straight out of comp, is there's no defensive ults to stop it. Coalescence is close, but that's not really going to do a whole lot. And they do go behind, like you said, and they catch three. It looks like Dragon Strike comes out. I think it was Eden, though. So ONYX in a great spot here as now they use the Coalescence, as now they're dealing damage and getting the healing out, as Phil Roach is coming back in and on as they clear off everybody but Ozzy. Ozzy's the only one left here at the overtime meter, halfway there. No one's going to get back, and winning this will be ONYX. That eating that at the end there was huge by Instant Karma.
It was such a huge Dragon eat. It was fairly obvious too. Like, I guess it was the excitement of straight out of comp wanting to make sure that they made this combination work. Pastor Knight does get played again on Azaria, but the Dragon Blade with Game G at the end was the main reason why they were able to hold out. Went into the backline as straight out of comp, went so aggressive. They made themselves susceptible to a flank. Pastor Knight really did punish that, and that's why they won this one 3-1 on Hollywood.
And even though it wasn't the play of the game, I think you have to call that the play of the game, because that could have been a ultimate that would have turned around the fight for the side of straight out of comp, because they did, I think it was 3 that were caught in there. You eliminate 3 immediately like that with no defensive ults. That's a big turnaround for your team, and they were going to complete that point if they were able to get it off. So hats off to Instant Karma there, but our hats are off now to bring in our awesome and gracious host, that is Panda, because wild finish to that one, Panda. Even though J-Dog was popping off, I mean, ONYX doing the teamwork that was needed to get the win.
I almost felt like I haven't been here in a while just because of Temple of Anubis. I mean, like that match right there was crazy. I'm sitting over here just like flailing my hands in the air. I'm like, whoa, what's going on, man? Like, almost wish I was casting this match just because it was just so insane. Like this to start off Open Division. First off, y'all, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, like this was a banger of a match to start off. This was fantastic. Great casting from Labasco and Ryan as well. But let's go ahead and break down these maps just quickly for you all as well. Let's bring you back to Temple of Anubis real quick. Now, I don't want to go through all the attacks because I for one thought that we were about to see double digits on both ends of the spectrum until we reached ONYX's final attack there, and it was really interesting for me personally that straight out of comp actually came out on a 3-3 defense. Ryan, when J-Dog ended up dying and cycling through rally, came back as Tracer and kind of let the whole 3-3 crumble. Was there anything else at play for that, or do you think that 3-3 would have been a good defending choice against a Widowmaker composition that ONYX was rolling out on?
I think when you have such a strong Widowmaker, nothing to contest it, you're leaving yourself open and susceptible. They went down in so many different fashions that I felt it made it very easy for ONYX to push on through. That was their second defense. They had to try and defend the first point 3 times, and each time it went down in a minute. So they did. It's not as if they just ran that strategy each time and it didn't work. They tried the erase on the high ground with the Widowmaker strategy. That got flanked, torn apart. J-Dog had nowhere to go in the Widowmaker because all of the high ground was taken by ONYX. Second time they tried to run dive, didn't quite work. Third time they did it, and they couldn't really work out how to take down ONYX. ONYX seemed to know the map like the back of their hands, and they knew how to play into each of the different compositions that came out. And because of that, that's why they came on top. It was close, but that was the difference, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Almost taking your idea of if we run this 3-3 composition, maybe we can elongate this team fight to a certain extent and see the end of this phase. But they still had time coming into that final attack. And for ONYX especially, let's not forget that ONYX is a snake Pokemon. Yes, he is rock, but able to slither around on this dive composition. They looked very strong, Labasco, coming in on that final attack. I almost would definitely really like to know how Tracer into an anti-dive composition of Orisa and Diva is what Straight Outta Compton ran on their final defense when they were playing for that draw. How did the Tracer of ONYX just able to run amok like that? It's not an easy fact.
No, it's not. They really didn't have anything to deal with it though either for Straight Outta Comp. Straight Outta Comp, I think, was just kind of in a tough spot. They were kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, and I think that which goes along well with with ONYX, right? But I think the one thing to point out is that Ryan said it, that it seems like one of these teams had a better grasp of how this meta is. In ONYX, they knew what to do with their supports a little bit more and were able to keep players up. So regardless of J-Dog popping off or not, when you have tanks, they were able to sort of just go through it. And on Temple of Anubis, it was sort of just the Wild West there towards the end, where it's like, whatever you think is going to work, do it. And that's what they did. I think they did just straight normal dive at the end. They knew that their targets were going to be up on that high ground, or they had a good idea that was something they were going to do. So they made the switch to it, and there was nothing really there to contest it. Orisa can't really do a whole lot about it. J-Dog, sure, he can one-shot him, but you have to be able to hit that shot. Tracer's one of the hardest targets. So I think that it was a good decision to do, because Tracer with the mobility is still a good pick if you don't have a Brigitte on the field to stun her and cause her to be useless.
Yeah, absolutely. And Anubis just fantastic match. I definitely suggest if you missed it in chat to go back and watch the VOD because that was a fantastic map within its own right. But let's go ahead. Let's skip across the pond a little bit. Let's go over to Hollywood. Now, Ryan, I don't know if you've ever been to Hollywood before, but it's not typically a place where you see many snowballs being formed. But ONYX was able to make their own in a way. Their 3-3 composition coming out from attack, it never really stopped per se. Their defending team for Straight Outta Comp came out on a 1-2-3 around J-Dog. They seem to really trying to enable him greatly. They stopped him ever so slightly at the beginning of their attack phase, but it was just a wrecking of a time where you would think that a double sniper composition for Straight Outta Comp on their streets phase would be able to decimate them because 3-3 doesn't really take much high ground away from them. How is it that easy for 3-3 just to steamroll all the way through Hollywood like that?
Just the sustainability. It made it really difficult for J-Dog to find any use. He was uncontested on the high ground. There's a perfect example of where a Graviton came through on the side of Straight Outta Comp, caught a good amount of people from ONYX in it, and you just a J-Dog like popping shots from a distance, not actually getting any kills or doing any damage. So they obviously wanted to play around that strategy. They wanted to play around their linchpin of a lineup because he was so impactful on areas like Rialto, especially, that you go, that's fair enough to try that strategy, but you just see for yourself why this composition seems so universal with the free support, free tank, why it's scary to run into. And there are certain maps that you can run to try and avoid that. Like Gibraltar is a great example because of the verticality to it. And you'd assume that for the second point, Hollywood, that was their only opportunity for Straight Outta Comp to stall that objective, but they just couldn't get any form of real damage in. And the front lines, I suppose, the Reinhardt and the Zarya, easily winning on ONYX's side in that sort of section of the map.
Yeah, and they seem to try to sustain themselves with that missing damage that they were lacking on defense. Labosco, on their attack, they came out with a double projectile style, both with J-Dog on the Hanzo, and then they also had a Pharah come out there as well. Not something that you typically see for Pharah coming out on the streets phase for Hollywood because there's so much high ground in play. There's a lot of enabling factors for even a Zenyatta to get up on the high ground to really burst down a Pharah really easily. So for me personally, I haven't seen much Pharah play on the streets phase of Hollywood. It was fun. Don't get me wrong. I had a good time, but one thing I did want to note on for ONYX's defense was that it was a core dive defense. Their healers, on the other hand, were Moira, Lucio. With the attack coming out for Straight Out of Comp on Pharah and Hanzo, do you think that they should have had a little bit of an easier time, or is Moira and Lucio being so quick and so hard just to track out of that fade and the speed boost, especially, is the reason why they came up short? Or was there something more at play?
Well, I mean, I think it shows ONYX kind of knows what they want to do and that those healers are really strong right now because, I mean, you think about it, it wasn't until I think there was maybe under 60 or even under 30 seconds left for Straight Outta Comp to finally take that first point. So I think because of the mobility and those two heroes now just healing so much more, it can really work, especially if you think that what you're going to see from the other side isn't going to be able to deal with that healing and sustainability that you're getting. So I think that it was a good decision for them because of what they were able to do with it. Now, could it have been taken more advantage of by the side of Straight Outta Comp? I think so. I think that maybe they just didn't focus targets as well as you would like to have seen, especially because you have two projectile heroes who can really spam out and do a lot of damage onto one target. And you, even with the healing that you had, could have maybe done something. But I mean, with how long it took them, I think that's part of why you didn't really see them make that switch on the streets phase too. Is it was just, we got to just keep going. We can't lose momentum, and it's tough when you're in that situation. So I think the biggest thing was J-Dog just wasn't having as much success on other heroes as he was on Widowmaker, and with just the state that Widowmaker is in right now, it's kind of putting you behind the eight ball. And once a team figures out how to stop it, they really seemed to be committed to that. Like Detroit Pistons, we're gonna take everybody else out, and we're not gonna worry about Michael Jordan. So
you can only do so much at that point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's got to be difficult, and not to mention that the biotic grasp for Moira, her right click, if you will, can actually reach pretty darn close to the skybox on the streets phase where Pharah likes to play around. Does go a pretty lengthy mile if you allow it to be so, and when you don't deal with that, Moira specifically can pump out a decent amount of damage, but never in the end, it's going to be ONYX taking the series over Straight Out of Comp. 3-1 straight out of comp, looking very good. J-Dog specifically making a strong showcasing on the Widowmaker. Not easy to go against all of the armor and everything else included. But I would just like to take a moment to thank you all for joining us again, and to give a quick shout out to Broadcast.gg. We are a community of broadcasters, analysts, and producers as well. Or if you're like me, I come up from a weeb fashion. We also have a nice home for you as well to build a nice sustaining backing and to get yourself into one of these broadcasts one day and eventually as well. So give us a follow. Check us out on Twitter as well. Not to mention all of our wonderful talent, Ryan Central, Labasco, fantastic cast today. And we had a amazing producer, Sunkern, slapping the keys in the back, really bringing the magic to your screens. My name's been Pokemon Panda. We have another game tonight, actually, 8 p.m. BST. It'll be 3 p.m. Eastern time for you NA folks such as myself and Labasco. It's going to be in an NA side of life in the North American region for Open Division. So we hope to see you there as well. We hope you had a good time. Thank you so much, and we'll see you then.
What goes around comes around. What goes around comes. What goes around comes around.
wait until another. When I got nothing on my mind, I just can't wait to rediscover. When I meet with you again, oh, I just can't wait until the summer. When my spirit's free, no one's stopping me now. I just can't wait until the summer. When I meet with you again, yeah. I just can't wait until the summer. When my spirit's free, no one's stopping me now. I just can't wait until the summer.